Good morning to our guests from the EMEA region and good afternoon to those following us from Asia. My name is Anna Balázs, and on behalf of Bosch Security and Safety Systems, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. In the next hour, we would like to show you how our fire and smoke detection camera AVIOTEC enables fire detection and how integrated AI-supported algorithms reduce unwanted false alarms and optimize detection reliability in warehouses and logistics centers. Before we get started, some important technical information. We will record a session, and the recording will be available on YouTube and on our webinar registration page. We will share the link to the recording with the presentation within a couple of days. All audio lines are muted for better audio quality. We are waiting for your questions via the Q&A section, and you can send your questions at any time during the presentation, and we answer them at the end of the webinar. Our presenter today is Valeria Meneses, Internal Sales Representative for AVIOTEC. Valeria, we are very much looking forward to your presentation, and now I would like to give the floor to you. Yes, now you have the presenter right.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, depending where are you joining us from. I'm really glad that you decided to join us in today's webinar, where we will be discussing how to overcome the challenges of safety for warehouses and logistic depots. As my colleague already introduced me, my name is Valeria Meneses. I'm an inside sales representative for AVIOTEC, which is the technology that we will be presenting for you today. And I'm really excited about this. Before actually getting into what the actual product is, or the actual solution, I always like to take one step back and talk a little bit about why did Bosch decided to undertake the development of this product in the first place. And what we did was to go with the safety managers and understand what their key goals were. Of course, there were no surprises. Their main priority is to ensure safety. So we want to keep staff, buildings, and machinery safe. And this is really the motivation that we have behind the fire business unit at Bosch. We want to give people enough time to evacuate a building in case there is an emergency. And in order to do that, we need to keep on developing technologies that will allow us to do that. We want to save lives. This is our commitment. However, we are talking about a business, and as such, we understand that we need also to guarantee the business continuity. We do not want buildings, to the facilities, or any machinery to get lost or damaged during a fire. We understand how costly it is to rebuild a building or to rebuild the structure of a facility from scratch. And this is what happens in many cases after one of these is consumed due to a fire. But not only that, machinery is expensive. We understand that. We also don't want any extra costs due to having to replace one of these expensive equipments due to a failure or to a loss of it during a fire. Moreover, we have here a very important element in the warehouses and logistic depots, which is the actual stock that we are saving inside our warehouses. We know how important this is. Our business depends on it. We need that these boxes and these packages have to be at somewhere in a timely manner. We know also how costly it is if for some reason we are delaying these packages to be delivered on time. This can be caused because of false alarms in our fire detection systems. So we are also very keen into avoiding that. Once we understand the risks that we have, this is the best way that we can minimize them. So if you are in this industry, you are no stranger to the fire danger that exists. Here are some big names that have also learned, unfortunately, the hard way, that not even big names are safe from having this kind of painful and costly bad experiences due to a fire. Here we have a couple of examples of fires that have destroyed in a partial or total manner in some cases the facilities of warehouses and logistic depots. In some cases, the facility was consumed on itself by the fire, but in other cases, actually, the facility had to be destroyed afterwards because simply the structure was not reliable anymore. This is a very big problem. In other cases, we have also here one case in which the company had to actually apologize to their customers because they had to, of course, cancel all of their orders after they simply lost every stock, every package due to a fire. Imagine the damage in the reputation in this case. We need to consider this as a whole. We also need to think about, of course, the financial losses when a machinery is lost, when a machinery is damaged, when our facilities are lost and need to be rebuilt. But some financial losses are simply too large to be countabilized in this case. What some of these things have in common, all of these examples, is that in most cases, the actual cause of fire is unknown. After a fire broke down in a warehouse or logistic depot, we have to do a lengthy investigation to find out what exactly happened. Unfortunately, in most cases, we actually end up not knowing exact cause that originated this fire. What we do know is that in most cases, the actual cause might be arson. So this is something that we also need to take into consideration. So we have identified three main risks, or the three main areas where these risks can start a fire, and once it starts, it can ignite really quickly. On the first picture, we see here a very, very common, I think, image for all of you. We have highly flammable materials, not only because the boxes that we are saving in our warehouses are actually made of cardboard, but also because these boxes also are glued together with these flammable chemicals. In many cases, some of these packages can contain hazardous materials. And of course, we have the full-filled vehicles that are more often than not parked near our warehouses. Again, any of those can ignite at any moment and begin a fire that is going to be spreading really, really quickly. On the second picture, we see the daily warehouse ongoing activity. We have a continual movement of robots and forklifts with risk of collisions. Actually, this was a case of one of the news on the other slide. We have high ceilings because, of course, we want to take the advantage of the most amount of space from the floor to the ceiling in order to keep more of this material, of these boxes, of these woods. So these high ceilings mean that the smoke detectors are going to take too much time to detect the fire. But we will dive into that into a second. And lastly, of course, we have the packages that are stacked in these high shelves that can fall down and then be driven into by machinery. Imagine that. Lastly, we have the outdoor storage areas or semi-open areas where we simply cannot have any fire protection because the weather conditions are too challenging, and more often than not, these areas are completely unprotected. The high stack shelves create these kind of wind tunnels, and what happens in this case is that once a fire starts, it can accelerate the spread of the fire really, really quickly due to this chimney effect. In this case, what's end up happening is that it's going to spread not only consuming the goods that we have in this area, but also to the nearby facilities that are also full of our stock. And of course, in these areas especially, we have a higher risk of arson by intruders overnight. So the current situation is as follows. We have several fire detection systems that work, and they work quite well. Bosch has a robust portfolio in this case. However, we have certain challenges within the warehouse and logistic industry that are requiring a specific solution. On the first scenario, we have a high fire load, as we have already talked about. We have the material, the boxes. We have also the forklifts, so the operation on itself represents a high fire risk. And in this case, the traditional fire detection systems are going to be installed in the ceiling, are going to take too long to identify a fire. We know how this works. We need to wait for the smoke to travel all the way to the ceiling in order to be identified and to activate an alarm. Unfortunately, what happens in many scenarios, in many cases, is that the ceiling ends up being simply too hot and does not allow the smoke to go all the way up to the ceiling. In this case, even if we have a fire detection system, sometimes, unfortunately, it's not reliable. It's not going to work when we need it to work. And the second scenario, we have a difficult environment. We have a ever-changing structure in our facility. We need to be flexible because we need to adapt to the packages, to whatever stock that we are going to have at any given moment. And traditional fire detection systems are going to be need to be installed near these shelves. They do not give us this flexibility that we need. And also, they require a great deal of maintenance effort. So we need to consider this when we are thinking about acquiring or installing a fire detection system. It's not just about the cost of the product on itself or the installation on itself, but actually the total cost of ownership of a system like this. And finally, we have the outside storage areas. As we saw in the previous picture, these areas are completely unprotected because traditional fire detection systems cannot be installed outdoors. So it's in this scenario where we are suggesting AVIOTEC as our fire solution to enhance safety when we cannot rely on a traditional fire detection system. We're going to dive into some use cases. So in the first case, we see here a very common image. It's a warehouse where we have the shelves, we have the forklifts working, we have people operating at different times of the day. And the thing that we see here is, of course, the high fire load of packaging materials. We see here cardboard, we see plastic, and of course, the glue that we talked about also, the chemicals. In this case, it's crucial that once a fire starts, we detect it very quickly. Because if a fire starts, then it's going to spread really fast. And by the time when it's detected by a traditional fire detection system, maybe our facility has already been completely burned out and we have completely lost all of our material inside of it. In this case, AVIOTEC is the ideal solution. It can identify both flames and smoke within seconds. So independently of the height of the area where we are installing this solution, we're going to be able to have a timely and reliable fire alarm. Okay, this is something that I really need to emphasize on because it's a huge difference between seconds to minutes that it takes with traditional fire detection systems. And when we're talking about an emergency situation, a situation where we need to act quickly, this is crucial. The faster that we act, then the less damage that we're going to have in our facilities. In the second use case, we have these very high shelves. But again, we need to be flexible because we need to adapt. And I think this is one of the main characteristics in the warehouse and logistic depots. We need to address continual stock changes. And therefore, we cannot, unfortunately, trust in the traditional fire detection systems that maybe is not allowing us to have this flexibility. Regardless of where the source of a fire is, AVIOTEC can reliably cover vast areas with 24/7 monitoring. This is something that is very crucial because we are able to, whether it is locally protecting a certain specific area, and we will take a look at that a little bit later in one of the examples, or cover vast areas. This is something that AVIOTEC provides. This capability of adjusting the settings of the camera depending to our specific needs. And moreover here, I also like to point out something very nice, a very nice feature of AVIOTEC, which is it does not require any maintenance. And I say this with this very important because we are not used to having this kind of products working in the industry. Okay, this is not a product that is going to require for us to stop our operation and to assign resources in order to have this kind of maintenance that is needed in traditional fire detection systems. And in this other use case, we see an outdoor area where we may have different materials stored, usually highly flammables as well. And of course, it can be challenging to safeguard these kind of spaces because the challenging climate conditions cannot give us the opportunity to install here traditional fire detection systems. However, AVIOTEC can be installed in this scenario. As you can see here in the image, it functions reliably in low light and nighttime conditions. So we can be at ease that these kind of premises are also going to be monitored 24/7, not just for the inside of our premises, but also on the outdoor areas. And moreover, I always like here to highlight a very nice feature of the camera, that it is not only, and I say this quote unquote, a fire detection system, but it also acts like any surveillance camera from Bosch. It has the intelligent video algorithms that are integrated into it and is going to allow us to have also a very higher security. So it's only addressing not only the safety part for fire detection, but also the security that, as we know, might be at more risk in these kind of areas. We've seen it before. The arson attacks and the vandalism at night, it's a real problem for these facilities, especially in large-scale industrial parks. So we can protect these spaces and these areas with AVIOTEC as well. Moreover, we can also kind of control or monitor certain behavior that we want to have inside our facilities from our own people. So this is something really interesting that we can explore just to maximize the capability of the camera. So this is our star product. This is AVIOTEC. A brief summary, as we've mentioned before, it's the early fire and smoke detection system. And when I say early, I mean extremely fast, as I will show you in a couple of slides. It's a flexible fire solution that really adapts not only to the stock, but also to the infrastructure changes that we might need to do in our facilities. It's the only solution for fast detection in outdoor spaces and moreover, outdoor security in general. And we are very confident of this product because it has been successfully implemented in warehouses and depots across the globe. I mentioned now about how what the product is, what it can do. Now let's dive in on how it works. So AVIOTEC is a visual analyzation tool. This means that it does not need any additional element, any external server, any software, any license. It's the AVIOTEC on itself with its intelligent algorithms embedded on it that it's going to perform the analysis directly in the scene. And we're going to have the possibility to transmit this information to a video management system. Actually, here we have two possibilities. We can connect it directly to the fire alarm panel. And in this way, we are treating this as any traditional fire detection system, of course, with the possibility of having a visual alarm, a sound alarm, and even a notification on our mobile phone so that we can act immediately in case we are notified of an alarm. However, since it is a camera and we really want to make the most out of it, we suggest that you use a video management system. Most of you already have a video system, surveillance system, CCTV system. So the magic of AVIOTEC is that you can actually install this AVIOTEC into your already existing system. We wouldn't need to have a new infrastructure in order to install AVIOTEC. The video management system, of course, we recommend it can be Bosch, but it can also has full compatibility with most of the more known brands. And in this case, what's the advantage of having the possibility of connecting it to the video management system? We're going to be able to see what's going on. And of course, as we know, if we have more information, then we are able to act more accordingly. We are able to act, to have and make better decisions. And not only that, in reality, this footage is going to be really, really relevant when we are performing the cause root analysis. This cost root analysis is something that's crucial not only for the company, because we also want to understand what's going on, what happened, why the fire started, and how we can avoid it from happening again, but also very relevant also in this industry for the insurance companies. The insurance companies are going to be very interested in this kind of information that we're able to provide to them. And this is something that you can use to your advantage. So AVIOTEC actually performs 20,000 analyses every 0.02 seconds. Imagine that. This is a very fast technology, very innovative technology, and it works through physical algorithms. Today, I will talk to you about the physical model for flame and how AVIOTEC can identify when it sees and identifies the presence of flame in the field of view. For this, we are actually having 3 different characteristics, and only when these 3 characteristics are identified and verified by AVIOTEC, then we're going to have a alarm in this case. These 3 elements are the flame core and shape of the flame, of the fire, the flickering, which is this very particular movement that we see in fire, and the illuminance rating, this very intense colorimetry that we see in the core of the flame and that it extends to its surroundings. Then again, when we have standard settings of the camera, we are talking about approximately 4 seconds for the camera to identify these elements and 8 additional seconds to verify that indeed what we are seeing in the field of view is a risk of fire. In the case of smoke, we also have a physical model. And in this case, we're also going to monitor certain activities, certain behaviors. In this case, we are going to detect the motion of transparent and semi-transparent objects. When we are going to identify also this upward movement that is the way that smoke behaves. However, as I mentioned in the beginning, at some points, smoke starts to move instead of upwards, it begins to move sidewards. And this is a movement that other detection systems cannot identify. However, AVIOTEC is able to identify it as a fire threat. And in this case, since let's say we have more things that can look, even for us, our human eye can confuse smoke with water vapor or with dust, we're going to take an extra verification time in order to guarantee that indeed the alarm is being activated for smoke. Okay, the camera is going to be able to discern the very turbulent but constant movement that smoke presents. But I think we're going to be able to understand this better when we see it in a video. And the first video that I'm going to show you today, it's in our fire laboratory in Ottobrunn in Germany. In this first case, we see a ethanol flame starting. Since it's ethanol, we do not have any smoke. And what we will see is that as soon as we see a square around the flame, it means that the alarm has been activated. In this second video, we're going to see that we are having some smoke in the field of view of the camera. As you can imagine, the challenge is a bit bigger because we do not have a lot of contrast with the background. However, within the 20-second frame, we see, again, the pink square around the smoke, meaning that the alarm has been activated. We are talking here about a color mode because the camera can also operate in a black and white mode. In this video, we see it's taken close to 11 p.m. at night, and we see again the alarm being activated at the presence of flame. And in the last video, that is really my favorite, because we can really see here how the camera is operating, how it is identifying soft movement in the field of view, how this yellow line means that it's running the algorithms to understand the movement that it's presenting. And once a square appears, in this case, it's a yellow square, but again, it means that it has been identified as a real fire threat. It has been identified as smoke, and therefore the alarm has been activated. We can operate AVIOTEC with only 2 locks, and moreover, it can also be operated with 0 locks with infrared lightnings. This is a very high technology regarding illumination. It's a Starlight Technology 8000. And so that you understand, we have here a picture of a mobile phone at 2 lux, which is basically a night with a clear night with a full moon or close to full moon, and then a frame taken from a video from AVIOTEC. Again, we want this information. We need this information, and this is going to be very useful for us. Okay, so we have explained how the technology works, and now I want to make a quick summary regarding this. As we want to make this analogy, it kind of works like a human eye. As we are constantly alert of what's going on around us, in the same way, AVIOTEC is going to be constantly alert and constantly performing analysis of turbulence, color, and motion, and also smoke density, in order to determine whether what we are seeing in the field of view is fire or it's not fire. And it's this combination of the physical algorithms that is going to be giving the input to AI to the alarm decision. We have talked about the minimum elimination level, and it here says reduce to 2 lux. In this case, we have, some of you might think that this technology is new, and indeed it's quite recent. However, we have had previous generations of AVIOTEC. In the very first generation of AVIOTEC, we needed 7 lux to perform during nighttime. And I'm saying this because this really shows the commitment that Bosch has with a product, not only AVIOTEC, but in general. Even though we have an excellent performing product in the market today, we are still developing it further because we want a higher detection range. We want more robustness against false alarms. And that's why we are keep working on this product, even though it's already an excellent, optimal, and high achieving product. But this is pretty much it regarding the product. Now I'm going to move on to the very last part of this presentation, which is some success stories. In this first case, we see a automatic warehouse. These are more and more common. We have these robots that are inside charging, and the situation in here is that we have this dedicated area where these robots are going to be charging, and of course they need an additional fire monitoring because these are the higher or the biggest fire source in the warehouse, as this head of safety mentions in this case. As I mentioned also in the beginning, this is a possibility that AVIOTEC has to adapt exactly to our needs. We can also cover a large and vast area, but in this case, what the customer needs is a dedicated area to be protected by AVIOTEC. And this is what we did. Fits perfect to the customer needs. In the second case, I really like talking about this because it's a very interesting case. What we have here is a warehouse, a cardboard factory warehouse. This is in Chile. And in this case, the insurance company was requiring a very particular thing from the end user in this case. They wanted for them to install sprinklers on every single level of the warehouse shelves. As you can imagine, this is completely unfeasible, not only because of financial reasons, this could be very, very expensive, but also because really it was not a practical solution at all. We need to be flexible in our warehouses because we need to adapt according to whatever stock that we're going to have at any given moment. And as such, it was an impasse that the company and the insurance company had. However, the insurance company was able to suggest AVIOTEC as an alternative because the end goal, of course, was to protect this space and to be able to detect a fire on a timely manner once it started. So we could avoid this completely to turn into a completely total damage. AVIOTEC can cover more than just one level of the shelves. And on top, it ended up being cheaper than the solution that was proposed initially. Okay, so this is really just one example out of many of how we can have a win-win situation in which the company ends up having the protection, the insurance that they need. But of course, the insurance also needs this guarantee that the area is as protected as it can be. And this is what AVIOTEC is for. It is to enhance the safety in the spaces that are more prone to fire safety or to fire damage in this case. And lastly, we have the outdoor storage areas. This is also one of many possible different scenarios that we can have. In most cases, we have a ceiling, but otherwise the area and the products kept inside are completely prone to the changing climate conditions. And in this case, AVIOTEC is possible to install in these scenarios. It can prevent not only from the firing starting and spreading really quickly in that zone, but also from moving forward to our indoor facilities. So this is very, very crucial. And again, I remind you, it's more than just, again, quote unquote, a fire detection system, because it's the fastest flame and smoke detection system, but also it can give us the possibility to enhance security as well, especially in these areas that are very, very prone to arson and intruders and vandalism during daytime and during nighttime. This is it for me. I really hope that you like this presentation. We are more than available and more than excited to share more information. If you want to know any specific details, if you want to see or to find out if this solution could work in your facilities, please reach out. My information is here on the screen. And in that sense, I will give you the word in case there is any question.
Thank you, Valeria, for this excellent presentation. And dear guests, kindly ask you to send your questions in the Q&A field.
And I think you would have to help me because I'm not seeing the questions on the screen.
Okay. Is this system certified for EN 54?
Okay, so this is a very common question, of course. Sorry. Here. Oh, okay. Now I can see. Still cannot see the questions, but anyway, yeah, thank you for your questions. Of course, this is a very important question. The situation here is that we sometimes the technology evolves too fast, and unfortunately, the certifications do not accompany this technology. In this case, there is still no EN 54 certification. We have a VDS certification, which is a third body, independent body, which is a German institution, very recognized worldwide, and this is the certification that the camera possesses.
Okay. Thank you. Can you see the questions, or can
yes,
I
I can.
continue?
I can see. Thank you,
Okay,
Anna.
okay.
So if I lit a torch light directly at the camera, will it consider as a fire? Will the camera detect the temperature of the flame core? Okay, this is a very crucial question. I'm very glad that somebody asked it. This is not a thermal camera. Therefore, no temperature rising will be detected by the camera. The camera is a visual analyzation tool, so it will only be able to understand the threat of fire by the image that is being captured by the camera. Okay. I think I know what you mean by a torchlight directly at the camera. What in the end, what we are going to have, if there is the presence of fire and the camera understands it as a threat because of the three characteristics that we saw, then we're going to have an alarm. So in this case, if the torchlight is having the center of the flame and it's having this very intense colorimetry in the inside and it's having this flickering, then it will probably be identified as fire by AVIOTEC. Moving on. Are there any plans to bring EN54 to this solution? The answer is yes, it is been working on, but it is a very lengthy process that it's definitely underway. I will contact the VT division locally to find out more for my Bosch warehouse in Melbourne. Okay, glad to hear that. Do Bosch have any calculator for dimensions of protected area with AVIOTEC? Thank you very much for your question, Dragan. This is also a very nice possibility, feature that we have on the product page in Bosch, in the Bosch website. We do have several softwares that you can download, several material that you can download, and we do have a calculator for analyzing the space that we need to cover and to determine how many cameras are needed for a given space. So please reach out to us and we will make sure to send you the link, or just go to the website of the AVIOTEC and then you will find it right there. If you need
Valeria.
any, yes, Anna.
Yeah, we can add this link to the mail that we are going to send out with the presentation.
Perfect.
Okay.
This is even better. If you have
Yes.
any question on how to use it, also we can help with that. No
Of
problem.
course.
If client doesn't have existing CCTV, what will the parts list for this system? Okay, of course, we will need to make a proposal, a design proposal of the infrastructure that will be needed for this system. We will ask you to contact us directly in order to make this proposal. It will depend on the warehouse size and dimensions, but this is something that we will be needing if we want to take the most out of the AVIOTEC and make sure to be connected to a BMS. What is the average coverage of the camera? Somebody asks, also a very common question. So it actually depends on a couple of factors. The first one being the height at the camera at which the camera is installed, the angle, and also the lens. The camera comes with a standard lens, but we actually have a couple of spare lenses in case we want to use it for specific purposes. However, we do have a table also available in this link that we will be sending to you. And this table offers just a notion of approximately how much coverage does the camera offer. I will give you one example. For a 45-degree angle, we are able to monitor up to 60 meters. And in these 60 meters, we are able to recognize or identify a 50-centimeter flame. Okay, so this is for you to have an idea. In the case of smoke, the smoke needs to be a bit bigger in order to be identified by the camera. Therefore, we're going to be able to cover 45 meters for the same scenario. Can this work with third-party VMS? Yes, it's possible. We have a full integration with Milestone, Genetec, and probably other brands that I'm not right now aware of, but please send us an email if you have any specific VMS that you want to confirm if it's compatible with AVIOTEC. The most likely is that it is. Is there a PTS solution for large open areas? Now that we are in this question, It is also important to clarify that AVIOTEC is not a PTZ solution. It needs to stand still in order to recognize the motion of fire. And as such, it is not a camera that will be moving around. We do have other solutions for large open areas, but this is a different division from Bosch. However, we will be able to provide this information. Do you have use cases testing results for lithium-ion battery thermal incidents? This is a very common thing, especially in waste treatment plants, where we have also successfully implemented AVIOTEC. So please reach to us in this regard. Is the interface with the fire detection control panels via dry contact? Exactly. So we have the relay that is going to be connected to the fire alarm panel. This is the possibility if we want to connect it directly to the fire detection panel. Can this camera integrate it directly to BIS system? I'm really sorry here. I do not know the answer to this question. I will find out and we will get back to you with that one. Okay. Can this work with Avenar fire systems without VMS? The answer is definitely yes. It's definitely possible to have this working together. So, and I don't know if you have any additional questionings that I might be missing.
Actually, privately, I have got, but you have already answered. So if a client doesn't have existing CCTV, what will be the part list for the system? So it can work directly together with Avenar, right? This is what you have just
correctly
mentioned. Mm-hmm. I cannot see more questions.
Okay. In this case, I'm going to go back to the presentation. I'm going to thank you again for your participation in this webinar. Here are my contact details in case you have any additional question or maybe a question that needs a further answer. And actually, before leaving you, we would really like to know your feedback regarding this webinar. We appreciate your time. It will take less than a minute and it will help us improve these webinars in the future. So please take just 1 second. Here is the QR code. You only need to scan it. It will send you to a Mentimeter web page, and then you will have 3 questions to answer really quickly. We will be very thankful.
So thank you, Valeria, once again. This was a really exciting topic. Thank you for the excellent presentation. And dear guest, thank you for attending. Hope you found the topic also interesting. Within a couple of days, we will share the presentation with you, and please do not hesitate to contact us in case of having any further questions. And we are looking forward to seeing you in other webinars in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.